Recap. Helena and Aaron are trapped in a supernatural paradox, landing them in front of a wandering spirit of a mother and a daughter. Chapter 4. Stranded and lost on a treacherous forest walk. At first, they were confused, unsure of what they were seeing. But as the figure floated closer, they realized with a start that it was a woman, her face twisted in anger and her eyes glowing with a fierce light. Her long, ghostly hair floated around her head like tendrils of smoke, and her body was translucent and ethereal. Venus' ghostly body floated in the air, her claws extended as if ready to attack. She seemed to sense that Aaron and Helena were a threat to her child, and she came at them with all the fury of a protective mother. Frightened, Aaron and Helena turned and ran, their feet pounding against the ground as they tried to escape. They stumbled through the dense forest, their limbs heavy and their eyes drooping. They were barely able to keep themselves from falling asleep. The strange, almost hypnotic sleepiness that had been plaguing them since they first entered the woods seemed to be getting stronger, and they knew that if they gave in, they might never wake up again. Grimly, they pushed on, their hearts racing as they tried to outrun the spooky ghostly woman that seemed to be stalking them through the trees. Helena's grip on Aaron's hand tightened as they sprinted through the forest, the ghostly figures hot on their heels. They could feel the ground shaking beneath their feet, and the air was filled with the sound of snapping branches and rustling leaves. As they ran, Helena and Aaron's bodies bounced and jolted with each step, their feet pounding against the soft, spongy ground. Helena's heart raced in her chest, and she could feel the sweat dripping down her forehead as she struggled to keep up with Aaron's long strides. Despite the fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins, she couldn't help but marvel at how agile and athletic Aaron was, his toned muscles flexing and rippling as he navigated the treacherous path. At one point, he even lifted her up and carried her over a particularly slippery patch of ground, his grip on her tight and reassuring. As they ran, they were forced to rely on each other. They stumbled upon an abandoned lighthouse, and as they burst through the door, they collapsed onto the floor, panting and out of breath. "It's her," Aaron assumed. "The closer she gets, the drowsier we feel." Helena was in disbelief. Who the hell was she? "Poltergeist, a vengeful spirit," Aaron replied in the dim light. They could see each other's bodies trembling with exhaustion, their clothes sticking to their skin as they sweated in fear. But they knew that they couldn't give up now. They had to keep fighting, even if it meant ignoring the deep, almost primal instinct to find safety and security in each other's embrace. They couldn't help but wonder if this was the end. Would they ever make it out of this strange, spooky place alive? Or would they succumb to the sleepiness that seemed to be creeping up on them, never to wake up again? They didn't have anywhere to go as they huddled together in the cramped lighthouse. They were forced to sit so close to each other that their bodies were pressed together, feeling each other's warmth and fear. The space was tight, and they could feel each other's breath on their skin. They could hear each other's hearts pounding in their chests, and they knew that they were in this together. They had to find a way to escape the ghostly presence that seemed to be closing in on them, or they would be trapped in this spooky place forever. The room was dark and cramped, with no way to escape except through the door that led straight into Venus' grasp. Aaron's heart raced as he tried to come up with a plan, his mind overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving Helena behind and running away on his own, especially when she looked at him with a mix of fear and trust. Despite their fear, Helena could feel Aaron's strong arms pinning her against the wall, his breath warm on her neck. She could feel the heat rising between them, the electric energy almost palpable. They couldn't risk separating or approaching the door, as Vina was still out there, hunting for them. Helena tried to say something in a state so physically and spiritually spent that Aaron gently placed a finger over his lips, signaling for her that she does not need to say anything. They were just breathing together, catching their thoughts together. Aaron's mind was racing with thoughts of desperation and survival. He didn't want to keep running from his fears and desires. He moved his lips closer to Helena's ear and whispered, "Can you trust me?" He had a plan in mind. Helena shuddered at the sound of his voice and the feel of his hot breath on her skin. She turned her face towards him, her lips inches from his, and nodded yes, submitting herself to him. He then began to perform a series of intricate hand signs, his fingers moving with precision and grace. It was that twirling thing again. Helena couldn't help but wonder if this is where he got his twirling habit from. She watched in fascination as he went through the series of intricate hand signs, his movements precise and controlled. Helena watched in awe as Aaron closed his eyes and recited an ancient mantra, his voice barely above a whisper. Aaron gestured for her to come closer and then demonstrated the hand signs again, this time more slowly. Helena looked at him in confusion. She didn't have the energy to understand what was going on. Aaron silently picked up Helena's hands and placed them in the correct positions, mimicking the hand signs he had just performed. Helena watched in confusion as he made her repeat the movements, his face serious and focused. She didn't understand what he was trying to do, but she trusted him enough to go along with it. As they practiced the hand signs in silence, Aaron's eyes never left hers, and she could feel a sense of determination and purpose radiating from him. As they stood there, their bodies pressed against each other, they found themselves drifting off into a celestial state. Their hearts melted away as the condensed sounds of Aaron's words ran through their minds and bodies. Aaron's heart raced with a mix of fear and desire. He couldn't shake the feeling of being inexplicably drawn to Helena, even in the face of danger. He knew he had to confront Vina, but the thought of leaving Helena alone and vulnerable filled him with dread. Aaron's feet felt heavy as he emerged from the safety of the lighthouse. He knew that he had to face Vina, no matter how terrifying it seemed. He took a deep breath and stepped out into the faint light of the moon, his eyes searching for the ghostly figure of the woman. As he scanned the area, he couldn't help but notice the way his hands were shaking. He clenched them into fists, trying to steady himself as he called out to Vina. He spoke with conviction, his voice echoing through the night. "Wandering spirit, show yourself." There was no answer, only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Aaron's heart pounded in his chest as he took a few steps forward, his eyes fixed on the spot where he had last seen Vina's ghostly form. As he looked deeper into the mist, Vina's ghostly figure emerged from the mist. It seemed to unravel from the swirling smoke, her translucent body taking shape before their eyes.